I click the links to get the other video platforms or to support the channel. So there's a couple of weird things going on here. This situation where these allegations on both sides, everyone deserves to do the process. This person as well as Kiwi Farms, everything's kind of just alleged. Allegedly sending substances to people, and then people also under the age of consent without, a medical oversight, hormone type of things. So that's an issue. And so then you get the website that talks about it, Kiwi Farms being among them, because if you try to talk about it on the mainstream, Instagram, Facebook, the Google platforms, or Twitter, you just simply will get eventually shadow banned and then kicked off. So Kiwi Farms is talking about it, and they might be a little politically incorrect, to put it mildly, but they're bringing these allegations to light. And if these things are true, well, the state level police should be working on the situation, and then the FBI should be working on the situation, because it's crossing state lines if you're providing materials without a medical license and then to children under the age 18. That's insane. Somebody should be looking into that, and it's like it doesn't get the doesn't get the attention it should get, because on mainstream media they built up this shield, or mainstream social media, they build this shield of Islamophobicism, and where they control the platforms. If you start to bring attention to this, you'll just get dogpiled, mass reported, and your channel will get taken down. So it doesn't get the spotlight. So Kiwi Farms is putting the spotlight on this sort of thing. That, yeah, maybe you shouldn't be allegedly sending chemicals to children, or like, you're not a medical doctor. It's like, and also providing bathtub recipes on how they can make their own hormones at home, using the homemade chemical sets. I mean, all this is insane. Why, like, the fixation on children is, I mean, if anything kicks this stuff off, it's going to be the fixation on getting the next generation, getting the children, because it's, I mean, even people on the left look at this kind of stuff, like what they're doing to kids, and it as just pure evil, because it is. Like, you can't be on board this and still consider yourself a good person. This isn't, I mean, it's like this slippery slope of using pronouns is one thing, but like permanently allowing children to make permanent decisions. Kids know themselves. No, they don't. Like, no adult with or without kids, that, because you were a kid once, that's a nonsense. No, kids don't know themselves. You don't really know yourself for a while, and to take a permanent decision like this, to allow a kid to, well, I mean, the next part of the slippery slope is, well, why don't you allow children to engage in other activities? And up until now, it's been the concept of, well, legally kids can't consent to certain contracts and certain things. They don't have the state of mind necessary. They don't have the capacity to understand what they're consenting to, so legally they can't. But you're allowing them to consent to this sort of thing, make permanent decisions. Like, this isn't like giving a kid a tattoo if that's part of your culture. I mean, this is something much, much more serious. So anyway, so Kiwi Farms was bringing attention to this. And so what happened to this person who, if the allegations are true, whatever the Canadian equivalent of the FBI is, this person should be in handcuffs and should be prosecuted. And their partner, who was involved with it also. But Kiwi Farms gets taken down because they brought attention to it. And it kind of reminds me of the stuff that happened with verified hate and blue checkmark hate on Twitter. Several years ago, people were screenshotting and archiving this blue checkmark hate sites on Twitter, and they were republishing all these. It's kind of a libs of TikTok thing, like one segue to another segue to another segue, but it's all kind of the same thing. It's people showing the hypocrisy of these blue checkmarked accounts. So that with that example, they were republishing all these archives and screen caps of these people. This hatred coming from these blue checkmark accounts, usually hatred coming towards people of European descent or men in general. And like, people were starting to notice these things because you had like a half dozen of these sites who were doing this. So instead of kicking off the people who are saying, MAGA kids should go in the wood chipper and all this other stuff that was only really directed, or the Covington Catholic kids was one of them. But like most of the stuff was like literally openly out in your face, just like genocidal, incandescent, anti-white hatred. And like, it's not me saying this. They have the archives and the screen caps of these people in their own words, their own hatred. So the people who republished that and brought attention to the hatred, they got kicked off Twitter. And the first they got shadow banned, the verified account, verified hate hashtags got shadow banned and just removed. But the people who were bringing that attention got kicked off Twitter. But the people who made the tweets, if a left-wing celebrity makes a violent tweet against someone who's of European descent or thought to be Republican, or like the Covington Catholic kids or the Kyle Rittenhouse or those kind of things, those accounts are still up. And that, like, Twitter controls the narrative, politics being downstream from culture. So when you have sites like, you got Kiwi, you've got Gab, Telegram, Odyssey, Bit Chute, and a bunch of other sites that I'm not going to name because it'll trigger the algorithm, who are like 1% of internet traffic, or maybe now it's growing a little bit. Like it's actually growing pretty fast. Like Shing Shing and Odyssey live streaming platforms are growing quite well. Once Gab TV gets live streaming, it's going to be very exciting days. So those sites are providing a counter narrative to point out, like, yeah, you really shouldn't be mailing hormones to kids, or telling kids how to make this stuff at home, how to make cross-sex hormones at home. That seems like you're hurting people, and you should be prosecuted for that. So those sites get deplatformed. Kiwi Farms get deplatformed, and you quickly realize, like, who's controlling the narrative. The mainstream media and the mainstream social media, they're all on the same, and the government is also on the same page, and the schools, and they're all have this planetary wide agenda to do very bad things on a large scale, and they're all working together. Sounds a little tinfoil hat, until you look at the sites that publicize all that blue check mark hate, and you can find the images. You can image search it and find all those sites, and they used to be on Kiwi Farms, and they took Kiwi Farms down, but they're on other sites too. It's not tinfoil hat when you realize, yeah, if you're on Twitter, you can see the stuff yourself. Like, you can see these movements start, and then they just get shadow banned and deplatformed. It's all real. I mean, you can see it for yourself. Like, there's this planetary large movement of this narrative that's being pushed, and I mean, it's kind of the point now where, even like, if you're on the left, you got to be on the left, but not like insanely far on the left. If you're on the left, you're on social media, you're seeing, even on Twitter, like, people are dog whistling like crazy on Twitter. You got to see some of this stuff, and you got to wonder, like, AOC kind of being angry at someone that said, another representative from Georgia, Clyde something, said something like, yeah, only men can't get pregnant, and having her just lose her mind over that, or interviewing doctors and having them not being able to define, so are there fetal heartbeats at 6 weeks, and what's a woman, and can men become pregnant, and having them, like, give this long-winded explanation. Like, you're hearing all this stuff. This is all coming from the mainstream. My point being is, like, yeah, they took down Kiwi Farms. I'm sure they'll get back on somewhere. They'll get some server in South America or something like that. Because now, like, you could take things down a few years ago, but nowadays, like, there's people are recognizing the need for free speech, and also for alternative platforms that can't be gatekept, and for financial services that are able to move money around to fund this kind of stuff. Like, even people who are still somewhat in the middle of the political bell curve are looking around at all this kind of stuff and go, yeah, we really have to have places to openly discuss this without censorship, and we also need to fund this because we're not getting mainstream advertising. And you kind of realize, like, there's a vast majority of people who are not on board with all this weirdness. But then you look at these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations, these mainstream businesses, and main social media, and and a large part of the government, and the school boards, and this critical theory, this Frankfurt, this Marxist stuff. And you realize, like, it's a small percentage of people who are in power who are on board with this, but the big majority of people across demographics, across tribal demographics, I'll say, are not on board with this. So it really feels like, wait, feels like they're not representing us. Like, it's not just the government is not representing us at all, but also these non-governmental businesses who seem to have more power than anyone else. I mean, as Cecil pointed out on his channel, one of his live streams, I think the Jack's show. He's that guy's interesting because he's he knows what's up. I'll leave it at that. He was saying, like, social media effectively is gonna pick the next political leaders. And you realize, like, yeah, if you're not on social media, you're not getting elected. And if they're the ones who control the access to elections, it's like, well, that has to be protected by the First Amendment. Otherwise, the First Amendment is pointless. And as a consequence, you're going to have Twitter controlling the next elections. Like the meme of people are selected, not elected. It's like, yeah, it's pretty much right in our face now. And I was like, oh, if this peacefully seek redress of grievance time, it's like, yeah, it's really time to get some of that redress of grievance, because we have to have a representative republic, because the alternative to that is slavery. If we don't want to be ruled by Twitter and Facebook, it's like, gee, it'd be nice if those representatives in Washington would make protected free speech for those platforms. Yeah, the right to individual liberty and free speech is more important than $1 billion platform. Absolutely. That's a private company. The First Amendment is more important than a private company. Yes, that's a hill I think many people will die on. This is another hill I think a lot of people will die on. Not giving hormones to kids, not mutilating kids, not turning them into catamites. And you hear how careful I have to be for YouTube. Even doing this video is kind of iffy, because you just get kicked off social media. Like, if these people find a channel they don't like, they'll just dogpile it and get it deleted. I did a video from my other channel the other day called it's another word for struggle rehab. It's this movie this lady made about a post 9/11 situation in the Middle East, and there's like two YouTube videos that cover it, because the people look at these topics and realize, oh, we just can't cover this on YouTube because you lose your channel. Like a small channel like this, it's not such a big deal, but for big people, it's like it's it's a business for them. They're not going to cover hot topics. So The Hill covered it, and this other tiny little channel covered it, and that's it, because everyone's afraid to cover it because the censorship on YouTube is so insane now. Anyway, you can check this out in Bounding into Comics, and like, think about that concept of who's controlling the narrative. And join us on Gab and Telegram and Subscribestar and Locals. I'm on Locals. I just got on there. I think it's Bianca. It's just Bianca on Locals. And I will see you guys all next episode.